views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
This show's audio was via a Skype call.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Spirit Fire Radio and our continuing conversation on love wisdom. I am joined by my lovely co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Steve. Great to be here today.
Yes, it's lovely to be here. So, Dorothy, before we go into this week's theme, which is how do we strengthen our expression of love wisdom? I know so many listeners sort of ask, I can feel into their field, right? Love, wisdom, what are those two doing together? Would you like to refresh our sort of memory or just tell listeners a little bit of why those two are connected, love and wisdom?
Sure, Steve. So love in the spiritual sense, not the romantic sense, love is the attractive energy of our universe, and it's what draws us into relationship. It's that interconnective tissue, if you will. But it's an energy, and we need to think about what we're going to do with that energy. And that's the wisdom part. The wisdom is what we do with the energy, how we focus it. And so it's through wisdom that we use and focus and tap into the love energy. So they're very much tied up together. It's a type of energy, and I think that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, Steve, that is important for us to be able to connect with without all of the distortions of our own emotional state of what we want and what we fear and all of that. So we're talking about how we strengthen our connection to that particular dynamic of being able to use and focus the love energy. How does that sound to you?
That sounded really good. I love that you mentioned tissue because it is that which connects everything. You know, so many times we just think of love as emotionally, and as you said, it's not that sort of what was the word we kept using? All of a sudden, it's not coming to me. The romantic love, but there was another word that we brought up last week. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's that it is omnipresent, this idea that it is universal. And we hear that all the time, right? Universal love, but it's actually a quality, this idea of love, wisdom. In a sense, that quality of those two together in the expression of them, there's a bit of trust in that connection. And we've said this quite a bit too, that we are all interconnected. We are all interdependent, that connection exists. And wisdom is the result of that knowing and using it, and from acknowledging it and flowing with it, right? We receive wisdom in the process in a way.
We receive wisdom, but we also use wisdom to direct love energy. And I think it's important for us to recognize that we are energetic beings. We're in an energetic surround, and this particular vibration, the vibration of love, is a very strong and potent vibration, and it can be directed in positive and negative ways. Just because it has the word love on it doesn't mean that it can't be abused. And one of the comments that I wanted to make is that some people that I know, in fact, this is a conversation that maybe you've had also, Steve, with people. Some people think that the best thing that they can do on a daily basis is to surround everybody with love, to send love to everybody in the world, no matter what. And there's a caveat to that. If you send love energy to somebody who is going to catch that energy and then use it in a very punitive way, you're actually creating harm in the world.
Yeah.
So the energy is neutral in itself. Wisdom is what helps us use it in an appropriate way. And we need to be mindful that this is a very powerful energy.
Yes, and we saw that last year around the election time. A year and a half ago, when there seemed to be so much divisiveness and anger and actual hatred, which we think of as the opposite of love. People were saying, "Oh, I'm just going to send love," and you realized, well, I understand your intention, and I understand this wanting for peace, and I get it. But that's just not going to work in this instance, because there is actually, one's got to participate with wisdom, and the wisdom behind divisiveness is often calling it out or doing something about it. And there is great love in that, because it is for the sake of our interconnectivity, right?
That's right. And that's why the wisdom piece is so critical. That's why we don't just talk about love energy in the abstract.
Yes. And it's so much about our use, right? Because we build upon love. And we build upon wisdom. We come to understand them. We come to see them as concepts. But it is in the utilizing of that energy. It's like these universal laws exist, right? And it is wisdom that shows us new ways to utilize them. So it's also about expansion, because we build upon wisdom, because the universe is expansive. It's always changing. So we have to be a part of it. We have to take part of that, right?
That's right. And so then that brings us to, how do we gain that wisdom? That's part of strengthening our expression. And I have a quote for us.
Aha, beautiful.
This one's from Rumi, and it's, "A little while alone in your room will prove more valuable than anything else that could ever be given you." And I think this is important. I think, we'll talk some about solitude as a method of strengthening our expression, but basically it gets at the fact that in order to tap into, in order to hear the inner wisdom that we actually have, we have to be able to screen out the chatter that comes externally and also can come from our own internal, what am I going to do for dinner? Why so-and-so looking at me that way? All of that internal chatter that goes on. And it's that ability to focus in that and hear that still, quiet voice, which is what the wisdom is.
Yes, to become the observer, right? Mm-hmm. I think of my mom constantly,
while we are the observer. Yeah.
I think of my mom constantly sending me to my room because I was a little whippersnapper when I was young. And I think that's why I'm so wise, Dorothy, because I was constantly sent to my room. You go spend some time alone in there. And when you come out, you tell me what you just said. It's true. I mean, it's funny, but there's truth to that, to sending somebody to go be alone, to think about what they'd done. And in my mom's instance, she was a tough Capricorn. You had to come out and you had to explain yourself. What just happened? Why did I just get sent to my room? And you'd come out and go, and as much as, it was a process. So yes, indeed. Go to your room. It's valuable indeed.
Right. Well, I'm reminded of a somewhat parallel dynamic in my own personal relationship, where we have discovered that we're most likely to get into arguments or difficult times later in the day when we're both tired. And if we try to resolve it, then it's usually a disaster. But if we will agree that we will come at it fresh in the morning, then it's a whole different thing. We've had a chance where we take responsibility to think about it. We refresh ourselves with sleep, use our dream time if we need to, and then come at it from a fresh perspective.
And it just come at it with more awareness, right? I mean, I hear that as we get tired, we really don't have the energy, and it says we really need to be, we need to develop awareness. And awareness of when there is separativeness, because if love is it's really about strengthening our understanding and expression of connection. And how do we support that? We've got to learn to really recognize, and we've talked about that quite a bit. It was such an interesting part of the harmlessness, when we spent a month on harmlessness, was do you really recognize when a situation is actually helping, it is attractive energy, or it is separative, it is separating. There's contraction going on. So it's a big part of it, I find, is this awareness of love wisdom, and when it's present and when it's not, right? Well,
and I think even beyond that, or kind of the backdrop of all of that, is being aware of the fact that we are literally all part of the same cosmic energy field. And that's no longer just a metaphysical statement. That's something that quantum physics has demonstrated to us. So we are all part of each other. We are all connected. And I find that one of the ways of kind of centering and being able to connect with that love, wisdom, energy and express it is to find ways to be aware of the larger whole. For me, I've lived many times in my life in places where I'm not in the city, and I can look up at night and I can see this vast array of stars that are all like our sun, and they all have planets rotating around them, and just that sense of immensity is very much, it's very centering for me to recognize that I'm part of all of that.
It's a fantastic feeling, right? I too live on a mountaintop, and when it's a clear night, oh my goodness, at once you feel that the stars are so far away, but yet you feel so connected to them. And it's that wonderful sense that arises of, yes, indeed, being a part of the one. Well, Dorothy, we're going to go to a break.
Oh, my goodness, already. Okay.
Yes, we're going to let our listeners spend some time in contemplation and be wiser when we return after these messages.
Stay juicy. Tune in to Your Juicy Love with me, Una Drake, co-hosting monthly with Dr. Pat, and every second Monday at 12 p.m. on Transformation Talk Radio. My show, Your Juicy Love, helps you find the dynamic, life-affirming love you've always wanted. Transform your relationships and bring peace, joy, and juicy, juicy love to planet Earth. For more information, visit unadrake.com.
Tune into the wisdom of your soul for guidance on living a joyful life. On Soul Wisdom Radio, Wendy will provide inspiration to raise your vibration and connect with your higher self and guides. Learn how to balance your ego and to progress spiritually on Soul Wisdom Radio with Wendy Rose Williams. Visit wendyrosewilliams.com or Transformation Talk Radio to learn more about a healing session with Wendy and her events and publications.
Now you can be a part of one of the most powerful programs to help create a more joyful, loving, abundant, and peaceful world. Every day at 12 noon in any time zone, join millions of other people around the world to spend a few minutes in joy, love, and gratitude. Brought to you by Robert Schoenfeld, host of the Art of Powerful Living Radio. Together, we can raise the vibration of the planet. For more information, visit globalmomentofjoy.com.
The Janice Underwood Show, helping you create the life you want, not the life you tolerate. Tune in each Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as Janice delves into the life creator system and the next step in your spiritual evolution. Janice Underwood is gifted at helping spiritually minded people shift their mindsets to unleash the creator within. Our souls wish to wake us up. Those of us listening hear the call. Do you? For more information, visit janiceunderwood.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
Be you plus live your purpose equals joy. That's the motto of Unstuck Joy with Vicki Todd. Vicki believes you were born with gifts that are meant to make the world brighter. Each show will feature an art visioning journal prompt to help you create your way to soul clarity. If you're ready to get unstuck and create more joy, this show is for you.
Tune in the first and third Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit VickiWorldArt.com.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. Dorothy and I have been talking about love, wisdom. We've been talking about it all month, and today we're talking about ways to strengthen our expression of love, wisdom. It's all about connection, Dorothy, and how delightful that we are connected through Spirit Fire Radio. Perhaps we take a few minutes to talk about our organizations and how this all came about. Do you want to start?
Absolutely. So listeners, this is a collaboration between the School for Esoteric Studies that I'm with and Spirit Fire that Steve's with. And the School for Esoteric Studies a couple years ago decided to intentionally seek out partners, collaborations. And this is one of those collaborations. We're absolutely thrilled. You can learn more about the School for Esoteric Studies at esotericstudies.net. We provide discipleship training for people who have a spiritual practice that they want to deepen. We do it through meditation, study, and service. And if you belong to an organization that might want to collaborate with us, please look at esotericstudies.net for information about that process.
Wonderful indeed, and Spirit Fire. So pleased to be working with School for Esoteric Studies. It's been a wonderful year. Goodness, I can't believe we're nearing the end. So Spirit Fire is an educational nonprofit as well, and we are focused on educating people on the importance of spirituality in their everyday lives. How do we bring that into our lives? And we do that through meditation, our own meditation practice called the Practice of Living Awareness. And we've got a retreat center in Western Massachusetts where we hold meditation retreats and educational retreats and online classes. So you can find out more about all of that and our upcoming classes and retreats at spiritfire.com. And our meditation practice, we're in a brand new round. So great fun there, an online practice. Wonderful, Dorothy. Well, do you want to continue the conversation a little bit on this idea of connection? I know we want to talk a little bit about meditation and even just solitude, in fact.
Yes. Before we get to that, I just wanted to comment that before the break, I was saying, that it's important for us to be aware that we are all part of the one life. Well, that comes with the need to recognize that we are also connected with people that we might not like and that we might not disagree with. I can think of some just right off the bat. And what's important, I think, from an energetic perspective, is to recognize that we are connected and to try to see where the commonality is, because we all have human experience. It doesn't mean we have to condone what the other person is doing, but it does mean that we need to understand and accept that there is a connection there. That's hard sometimes.
It is hard sometimes, but it's this funny dichotomy that diversity is such a wonderful aspect of life here on Earth, right? We talk about sort of coming together, but it's not the point to all be the same. there are similarities and there are commonalities that we have in our human experience. But goodness, we live in such a diverse planet, and it's to find the beauty in that diversity that is so important and is such an important aspect of love, wisdom, where the wisdom aspect of that comes in handy. Very much so.
That's right.
I also find it so interesting that you've brought this up, Dorothy, many times, that it's common to all spiritual traditions that it says, don't harm others. When you harm another, you're harming yourself. And it reinforces both that, listen, there are others out there and we might not agree with them, but we've got to find a way to coexist without being harmful. But also that when you harm someone, you're harming yourself. And why is that? It's just energetic proof that we actually are all a part of a one life, because we affect each other and it comes back, it affects ourselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, another aspect of that connection that I think is really important, and actually in the Ageless Wisdom teachings, this is underscored, is that it's critical that we remember that energy circulates, or it needs to circulate, otherwise it becomes stagnant.
Yes.
Even in our bodies, we need to have the intake and the outtake, that circulation. And it's all too easy for us to adopt a position of taking without giving. And part of the strengthening of the expression of love wisdom is the conscious giving in appropriate ways, using the wisdom part to focus that giving, as opposed to just passively being there or even actively taking. We need to be actively giving as well.
Yes. And it again comes down to selfishness. It's something we all have to look at one point in our lives. What are my intentions and what is driving this decision or this thought? And if it really comes down to selfishness that leads to separativeness or destruction, or where someone else may be harmed as a result, we've got to be selfish in a way to build up ourselves, to get to know ourselves. We are separate, but at the same time, there's a flow that has to happen, as you say. And yeah, we've got to realize that it's not always about us all the time.
That's right. Well, we certainly are responsible for ourselves and for maintaining our own energetic field. And what I think of is not creating psychic pollution in terms of the energy that we put out. But I would like to comment, just from a research perspective, that there's a lot of common parlance that says that self-interest is the driving motivation. That's what's going to motivate people. Well, it may be that people learn that, but if you go back in the research, it's very clear that young beings, including non-humans, can be very motivated by cooperation, by altruism, by helping somebody else. And so this idea that it's only trying to get the most for me, that's somehow embedded in us is actually not accurate. It's something that we learn.
Yes. And I just was listening to NPR this week, and they had a bunch of TED Talks on about motivation and money, which we all understand. And it just came around time and time again that if you one of the studies was that if you give a room full of people the equivalent of $10 and you tell them they can do whatever they want with it, that the people, and you give them choices, and one of the choices is to give it to somebody else who won't know why you gave it to them, or you have no choice of what they do with it. At the end of the day, those people that gave to somebody else, it shifted their level of happiness. The people who bought something for themselves, nothing changed. They weren't any worse for it, but they weren't any better. And so it's that sort of expansive flow of realizing, well, we are, whether we like it or not, we are building a better world. It's happening before us. We live in we are an evolving humanity and an evolving universe. And so, you've got to build. You when you give to another, you're feeling better. And it's not about just, when it's about me, you don't see much change, and change is part of that flow. So yeah, lots of studies that say when we help another or we give to another, it just makes us feel better. There's meaning behind it, you know?
That's right. That's right. But in order to do that, we need to be centered. We need to be grounded. And it's from that groundedness that then we can express love, wisdom. And part of helping us be grounded is solitude. And I'd like us to take a few minutes to talk about that, if we could, Steve,
Sure.
because I think that it's very easy to equate solitude with being lonely, and they're quite different. When people feel lonely, they are feeling isolated. Even if they're in a group of people, they're feeling unconnected. They're feeling isolated, and it's a sense of deficiency, that they're missing something. Whereas with solitude actually renews and replenishes us. It is a reconnection with who we are and our center, and so we actually, in solitude, feel connected to the whole, if that makes any sense. It's not an alone feeling, it's that feeling of a whole. And so then we have the space to hear what's true and what's needed, and what that still inner voice is saying to us.
Yes, beautifully said.
There's a really interesting initiative going on right now that I think is related to this in a kind of sideways way, and that is the UK has just created a minister of loneliness. And they did this in memory of the murdered British lawmaker Joe Cox, who had headed a commission on loneliness. And in Canada, they're considering doing a similar thing. So this is interesting. We do have particularly older people, or people who are not physically mobile, who report feeling lonely, and there's negative impact on health and all of that. But I wonder about this from the point of view of, is it because they perceive not being with somebody else as a deficit? Is it because they need this sense of actual connection, and that we as a society have a form of social neglect going on? You know, that we just stay with our own circle and we don't look out broader to see who else we could be connecting with? What are your thoughts?
I think that it's probably a combination of a lot of things. You know, I do think that the pace of life has increased quite a bit, and we tend to be distracted and multitask more than ever before. And so I think those who, as you say, elders who may be moving slower or may not be a part of the way in which many people modernly communicate and come together these days, in a way, neglect is a good word. They do get almost neglected from being in the stream and the flow of connection. And so it's wonderful that there would be a commission on loneliness that would look into what is happening here. Can we at once sort of show the value of solitude, but at the same time, awareness around these people that are feeling lonely and need to, for whatever reason, we need to firm up this sense of connection to other people. Dorothy, but listen, we're already at a break. I don't know how this happened.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah, we're going to go to a break, but I want to pick that up where we left off. So just as soon as these words, we'll be right back.
Winning at the game of money. Lynn Brown is now offering Full Spectrum Finance, a progressive 12-month program that will help you to navigate through the mechanics of financial expansion. Finally, a financial planner who looks at the full spectrum of money and abundance. Engage you in the mental, physical, and energetic aspects of finance. This is Full Spectrum Finance. Are you ready to get into it? For more information, go to fullspectrumfinance.com.
To see your life from an angel's perspective, book a personal consultation with Claire Candy Huff, angelic walk-in angel Ariel at Angel Healing House. Candy provides intuitive counseling, Reiki, and angel readings in person in Los Angeles or nationally and internationally via phone or Skype. She will channel the practical tools you need to transform your life. Call now 831-277-3716 or visit angelhealinghouse.com.
Set your intention for 2018 at Spirit Fire's annual New Year's Meditation Retreat. Find yourself at the peaceful Berkshire Mountains of Western Massachusetts this January for a weekend of meditation, amazing food, and planning. Planning to have the most exciting year ever. Visit upcoming events at spiritfire.com for more info. Happy meditating!
Integrate spirituality into your everyday lives on Universe Soul Heart Radio. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio as Kathleen Johnson explores the concept of sensible spirituality, keeping you grounded, connected, and centered on the path to wholeness. Kathleen has dedicated her life to facilitating holistic healing and wholeness in others. Listen to Universe Soul Heart Radio and learn how to flourish, grow, and impact all we do on planet Earth. For more information, go to universesoulheart.net.
What if your body and mind were the compasses to the secrets, mysteries, and magic of life? Glenna Rice, co-host of The Questionable Parent, is inviting you to access all that is possible. Glenna is a 10-year certified veteran access consciousness facilitator who offers an amazing variety of life-changing classes and workshops. Work with Glenna from anywhere, with teleclasses and workshops all over the globe. To learn more and see Glenna's current schedule of events, classes, and workshops, visit glennarice.com.
Choose the new earth on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio as Cornelia takes listeners on an odyssey of higher consciousness to inspire, educate, and empower. Cornelia guides people on the path of self-healing, peace, and liberation. The Cornelia Stephanie Show is your catalyst for anchoring heaven on earth on a global scale. For more information, go to corneliastephanie.com.
Welcome back, listeners. I just wanted to continue a conversation. We're talking about love wisdom and ways to generate love wisdom, and certainly solitude. And not that solitude is equated with meditation, but Dorothy, I wanted to say that so many people equate meditation with checking out, and that it is a time to sort of remove ourselves from the world. And I always will tell people that meditation is a time of checking in. And it's a bit of along the lines of what you were saying, that we need the space to hear what's true and to sense our connection to the world around us, because sometimes we just get so wrapped up in our activities and so wrapped up in our thoughts that we don't realize that our experience of this world, the breadth of our experience, can be much wider. We actually can extend the use of our senses even to our sixth sense, which helps us feel connected in ways that aren't only material. And you were mentioning just before the break about this Minister of Loneliness, that they are, what a name, right? The Minister of Loneliness. It sounds like a song. They're thinking of creating this even in Canada. And say a bit more about how you feel that might work. What do you think that this minister might put into place?
Well, let me just back up just a sec to what you were saying about meditation, because I think on the one hand, for those that think it's checking out, and I really like you putting it as checking in the ageless wisdom traditions. What's actually talked about is having a meditative attitude 24/7.
Right.
It's not simply an activity that's off to the side. It's the way in which you are in the world, which involves being in touch with that ability to express love wisdom, to be centered in the flow of energy. And I think in terms of the Ministry of Loneliness, I don't know what kinds of initiatives they'll come up with, but there is, I think it started in Australia, and there is in Canada now these what they call men sheds, or man sheds, which once a week in some public place like a community center, there's a time for men to come together. It's a drop-in, and they can have coffee together. They can, play games. They can carve wood, whatever it is that they want to do. But it's a time to be with other people. And as one man said about this, about the difference it made for him, he said, I used to be very, he had a job that was very responsible. He was right in the center of things. He said, and then I retired, and he said, my phone doesn't ring. And, such a change for him. So having that ability to connect. But I think it's important for us to recognize that in everyday life we can help with this. That, if you think about yourself, like I think about as I approach the supermarket that I use, it's encased within a mall, and as I walk down towards it, I pass a lot of people, and sometimes they're with other people, sometimes they're by themselves, and if I will just take the moment to say hello and actually look them in the eye, the response I get from virtually everyone is so warm. It's like somebody's seeing me, somebody's connecting with me, someone's recognizing me. And that takes almost no effort at all, but it takes an attitude, a way of thinking, a way of being in the world, of recognizing that we need to express the connectedness.
Yes. And it's an interesting conundrum, or not conundrum, but it's interesting dichotomy that we're talking about solitude at the same time as this need for connectedness. So, within both of these concepts are necessary parts of each other. That we need to be connected to other people, but we also need to not feel that we are alone if and when we find ourselves by ourselves. It can be very valuable to be alone and generate that sense of connectedness. So it's to be alone, but yet not feel as if you are separated from the world.
That's right. And in fact, for me, in order to be with other people, I need to have time alone.
Yes, for sure.
So, yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was in New York teaching last week in New York City, and I hadn't been there for several months. And man, I could not believe how many people were on their devices, on their cell phones. It's always a thing. But Dorothy, I took the subway. There was not a single head looking up, and I was waiting on a platform in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, just to go into Manhattan, and there was obviously a couple, and it was morning, so everybody was going to work, and the gentleman was on his phone, and what I could tell was his girlfriend. They were arm in arm. She was looking at him, and I just was in the distance watching those two, and I could see that she was saddened by the fact that she would talk to him and he would answer in 2 words and go right back to his phone. And you could just sense the solitude. So there's this issue of like good solitude and bad solitude, right? To be with others, but yet feel alone. And I thought it really, we just sound like the old guy going, these kids and their devices. But it is a fact, and I thought of you walking through the mall and saying hello to someone, that we really are just so many times disconnected from the actual physical human beings around us because we're reading the news or looking at Instagram or checking our emails. And gosh, one of the easiest, quickest ways is just put down your phone for a while. And being at the retreat center, people will come in and put down their phone, and they often say, I just don't give myself this time to connect with other people and just talk. That's not talk about tasking or work, or it's just time to be with each other. And even in a sense, in a spiritual community where we're just sharing ourselves with each other. So important.
Yeah. And I think what I hear a lot is, oh, well, that's just the way things are now, or that's just the younger generation, or everybody's going to be on their phones. I was with some friends this weekend, and we were playing a game, a board game, and I said to her, "Do you play this with your grandchildren? Because I know that they come every other week." And she said, "Yeah, but usually they just want to be on their phones, on their apps." And I thought, we have some responsibility to also help make sure that there actually is quality interaction, person to person, going on, and not just say, well, just, that's the way it is. But we need to recognize that there is something different about interacting in person with someone as opposed to just being online. And maybe that can take us into the whole area of gratitude, which is one of the ways that we strengthen that expression of love wisdom, of being grateful for the connection that we can make to other people, and perhaps that will help us put some attention onto it.
Yes. I can just feel the relief, because to be grateful for another and to notice, just to notice that which you might be grateful for is an action that reinforces your connection, your being in this world, you're participating in the world. And when you acknowledge it, you connect to your life, you connect to that which surrounds you. And guess what? People surround you. And, I think there was a time a couple of weeks ago, and my partner and I, we work and live together. We're together 24 hours a day, and we had a very difficult day and lots of stress. And at the end of the day, we were both just ready to just go straight to bed. But I knew that we were both not feeling kind of off. And I said, Tim, can you just tell me 3 things you were grateful about today? Just tell me 3 things you're grateful for, or 3. Yeah, it was those words that you're grateful for. And he came up with 3 things, and some were one was kind of big, 2 were just little small things. And it felt so great. Number 1, to connect to him by hearing what he found to be grateful. But he also said, oh, that was nice to actually end the day on a good note and actually realize that there was stuff that really made me happy. So, gratitude, it just sort of takes us out of our selfishness, of our focus on ourselves, and even of kids, right, on their, hey, what are you grateful for?
Right.
Asking them, what are you grateful for? They'll have to think about what takes place in their life. Right.
And there was I thought a great example in the Canadian news recently. There's a Syrian refugee living in Moncton, New Brunswick, and he has started a restaurant of pizza and Middle Eastern fare. And what he does is every day for 2 hours, and he posts what the hours are, he will provide homeless people free food, anything they want to order off the menu for free, as a thank you. And he says it's as a thank you for allowing him to settle his family in Canada.
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't that wonderful?
And you can almost just sense how also his being a cook, that he would find so much more joy. Again, that word meaning, by giving back to others, there's meaning in what we're doing. We've just, just given someone a plate of food who otherwise would be hungry. How nice. And they get to try his local, cuisine.
Right, exactly.
Maybe they find some taste buds they have in common and create some great connections with his with his fellow Canadians, newfound fellow Canadians. Wonderful. Dorothy, we're already at another break.
Oh my goodness.
So,
okay.
Listeners, we will be right back, and we're going to talk about the common good, right? Because wisdom and love, that quality is so important that we generate that for it helps us generate a better world and better for us all. We'll be right back after these words.
The Knowledge Book, currently studied in 39 countries and 15 languages around the world, accelerates our evolution, takes us out of depression, offers universal truth, protects us, and makes us stronger, both spiritually and physically. So if you are interested in the Knowledge Book, visit usa.theknowledgebook.net and tune in to the Knowledge Book Radio with Marge Potasic on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Amber Teal, founder of The Healthy Edge, is bringing you the hit show Healthy Edge Radio, living with power, passion, and purpose. Amber provides the support and tools necessary for you to finally release the weight and emotions that are hidden beneath the weight. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information on how you can take the next step with Amber, visit getthehealthyedge.com.
Isn't it time to put your health first, to give yourself the gift of whole body wellness? What if embracing unconditional love and self-care was the first step to wellness? Could you honor that for yourself? My name is Audrey Michelle, host of Rewired Life Radio and the author of Rewired Life, A Journey to Untangle Chronic Pain and Endometriosis. In my book, I share how I healed from 17 years of chronic pain and disease. Get your signed copy at audreymichelle.com/book, spelled MICHEL.com/book.
Tune in to the Psychic Professors Show, The Voices of Spirit Radio, with international medium and spirit artist Dr. Susan Barnes on Transformation Talk Radio, featuring a variety of spiritual topics such as psychic art, spiritualism, EVP, psychic development, and mediumship. This hit call-in show provides listeners with breakthrough wisdom to enliven and enlighten their lives. Visit spiritartgallery.net.
Tune in each Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio.
The Truth is Funny. Shift Happens with Colette Marie Steffen is excited to welcome Karen Benton as a monthly guest host. Tune in on the third Wednesday of each month at 8 a.m. Pacific Time to regain confidence and trust in your capacity to create change in your life, your health, your family, and your well-being. Karen Benton is a mother, nurse practitioner, certified body talk practitioner, Franklin Method instructor, and owner of Limitless Living LLC. For more information about Karen, visit KarenBenton.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. We are talking about love wisdom and ways to strengthen its expression in our everyday life. So what's the result of that? When we strengthen love wisdom, we basically create a better world. We create a better world for ourselves, for those around us, and it smooths the edges, right, Dorothy?
It smooths the edges. It requires a certain kind of discipline to focus on the good of us all. Not just what I personally want and what's best for me, but to be willing to look beyond that and try to find some common ground of recognizing the validity of other people's needs and other people's priorities, and then finding a way that's a kind of a both and instead of an either or to come together. So it's not simply personal satisfaction. And I think it may be a maturational issue, but it certainly is critical for the expression of love wisdom, is to, the way I think about it, to come to the point where I actually am not that happy if I press for a solution that's my way and leaves the other person in a kind of a one down or got you kind of position. It doesn't feel good to me, because I recognize that I am connected to them, and their well-being matters as much as my own well-being. So how is it that we find a way forward that it may not be 100% of what I want, it may not be 100% of what they want, but it is something, and sometimes it's even better than what I had thought of, but that meets both of our needs.
And that is collaboration, right? I mean, that's right. That is the key, and it is about coming together and finding where we can all sort of integrate. I love the image. I always think of this image of the diamond and the various facets of the diamond. That, we are this facet of this light that is the diamond, and we've got to work on ourselves, and we've got to know ourselves. We've got to understand humility in a way. But it's important. We've got to take that initiative to work on alignment. Like you said, solitude. Spend some time in solitude. Create that alignment, but then go out in the world and make use of it. Do something good with it. There was I've been reading a book by Mark Nepo, and he's a poet and a wise gentleman. And there was a line in a poem that I was reading last night that I earmarked, and it says, "I realize the gift like a chisel or a harp is in my hand, and that you give back by making good use of what you are given." And I thought that was great. And it's that, but it's the knowing of what is good use, right? And that is where wisdom comes in. What is good use, and what is it that I'm given, and knowing that it is in the giving back that is the gift.
And what are the issues that connect us? There was an interview recently in relation to the women's marches that took place at the time of the end of Trump's first year. And she was saying, the dynamism, the energy that you see out there, this is people coming together and saying what our government is doing is not okay, and we are going to do something about it, and we have issues in common. She said, women of color and white women are recognizing, women of different classes, socioeconomic classes, are recognizing that there are common issues. Healthcare being one of them, but not the only one, and the right to choose, all of those kinds of things that they can come together on, and they are going to come together and make sure that people can vote and that women are running for office. And it was a very energized speech, and she said we are not interested in the traditional hierarchical structure of the Democratic Party. We are all women together, and we are focusing on the issues that bring us together, that we are all concerned about. And I thought, what a wonderful demonstration of focusing on the common good.
Nice. I also like that within that conversation is often a recognition of the importance of men listening. That they're often included in it as well. That within that conversation, that this is about women's rights, and what's so important is that the men out there listen. That you're a part of this process too.
Well, and I think one of the best areas where that's illustrated is in the area of domestic violence and the resources that are allocated or are being stripped from being able to address that. Years ago, when I was living in Arizona, the community that I was involved with had a group of men who went to the local jail every week to work with men that were jailed for domestic violence. And I was just so struck and moved by, what they would say when I talk with them. And they said, domestic violence is not a women's issue, it's a men's issue. And men have to deal with other men and help them stop resorting to violence and start respecting women as co-equal human beings. It was, I thought, very profound.
Yeah, and you can hear the wisdom there, right? Great wisdom
That's
there.
Right.
There's been processing, there's been contemplation, and then there's activity. It's we mentioned last week the President Obama, his interview with Prince Harry, where he basically said, listen, you've just got to get out there. You've got to get out there and build bridges, mend fences, find out what you've got in common, and you will find it. It's that faith and trust that there is a commonality amongst us, and you just effort to find it. And, observe your mind, observe your actions, see where you can get separativeness going out the door, and compassion, inclusion, tolerance, patience coming in, and you will generate love wisdom. You will create space for love wisdom in your life because it's a fact. We are connected. Rest assured, it's there.
Well, and I think this is a very interesting time historically, especially in North America and in the United States in particular, where historically we've looked to leaders to be not just political leaders, but moral leaders to demonstrate for us that concern for the common good, the rising above partisan politics, and being the leader for the whole country. And some have done that well and some not so well, but we currently have a presidency where that is absolutely not the rule. And I was saddened when I heard the phone message that the White House chose to put on right after the government shutdown, when the message said basically this is the fault of the Democrats. The Democrats, are holding the country hostage because they want to let in all of these illegal aliens and so on and so forth. But it was a very divisive message. It was not. It could have just said, we are not able to answer the phone at this time. If you wish to contact us, use the website, something like that. It didn't have to pour fuel on the fire. And
when you said phone message, I didn't realize it was the actual answering machine message of the White House.
Yes, it was the actual phone message of the White House. Yeah.
Well, may it be so that this divisiveness is actually spending its time in its room alone to think about itself and come out, and may it be so that it's being highlighted at this time so that we can generate wisdom around the ways in which it does not serve ourselves.
Well,
it doesn't serve the radio.
I think what the marches are showing is that this is the pressure cooker of the time, so to speak. What's happening is instead of people looking to others to do it for them, which is in a sense what representative government is about, they're recognizing that they can't do that. They've got to take matters into their own hand. We all have to do this, and we need to do it in a way that is collaborative, that is finding the commonalities, and that is the strengthening of the expression of love wisdom.
Well, there you have it, Dorothy. Beautiful. That's going to be the end of our show because guess what? We are so very at the end of our show.
Okay.
Yes. Listeners, join us next week where we wrap up this entire year. It's been a delight, and we hope you join us. Dorothy, I'll see you next week.
Yes, Steve. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, listeners, for joining in. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.